Get your Mad Max on with Thunder Road Vendetta from Restoration Games. Is it a good box, or will you be furioso about it?
It's maybe a bum too far.
Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games, and today we're going to be unboxing Thunder Road Vendetta. Now this is a very fun game that I played very recently in NaveCon, which is kind of a board game convention that takes place in Limerick twice a year. I played it with two lovely gentlemen called John and Aidan and enjoyed it so much that I went straight out and bought it. So gentlemen, if you're watching this, thank you very much for the game and also for putting me on the road, no pun intended, for Thunder Road Vendetta. Now this game is basically, it's a race, but it's a combination of Heat mixed with Mad Max, mixed with Pinball, mixed with Goat Simulator. And the reason I say things like Pinball and Goat Simulator, because the most fun aspect of this game is when cars crash into each other, they literally bounce all over the place. Every player has three vehicles, a small, a large, and a medium one, and so the road is actually densely packed, and collisions occur quite a bit. And because of the fun physics in the game, cars will bounce everywhere. So you'll hit a car, that'll hit a car, that'll hit a car, that'll hit a car, and hit a car, which will go back and hit the first car. It's just pure, silly fun. You also have helicopters, and you also get to shoot your other racers. And of course, the first person knocked out brings in the finish line, and the first person to cross the finish line is the winner. A very simple, very quick, very fun little game. So with no further ado, let's unbox this and see what we have inside. So unboxing this for the very first time, we are greeted with the instruction book. Now, as you can see, it's not a very complicated game, which it doesn't need to be. It's just too fun and too silly. So you have the parts list here of all the bits and pieces you get in. You have the setup for the first race. You have vehicles board taking damage. There's also a game I think that has expansions coming out, such as a kind of a big rig, which is kind of basically like Mad Max 2, which is the big huge truck. But the instruction book itself is only 11 pages long, and there is a summary of the damage tokens on the back, so it's a very straightforward game. We have here the cardboard components. So every player has on their turn, they roll 4 dice for 3 cars, and you can spend one of those die for different functions. So in this case you have an airstrike, so you have a helicopter that'll come in and shoot someone of your choosing. You have nitro, so if you put the dice here, you gain moves equal to the value of the die, so 1 to 3. If you have a 3 to 5, you get to ignore the first crash, and a 6, you get to repair the car. So every player has one of these. These would be the actual vehicle pieces themselves. So you would roll the dice, and depending on what dice you roll, you put it here. You would have 3 of them. So in this case, you would have the medium, large, and small. So depending on what vehicle you want to kind of, if I rolled, say, a 5, a 3, and a 2, I would have to choose which vehicle would move 5 spaces, which vehicle would move 3, and which vehicle would move 2. You have space here for damage, so every vehicle can take 2 damage, and if it's damaged, you flip it over, and you have a very small chance of repairing it, but not always. These would be the damage tokens. So in some cases, if the vehicle is damaged, you will flip it over and you'll see what the actual damage is. Now in this case, this is very funny because you roll 2 die, and I'll explain that in a second. So I'm going to put this to one side, but the first time I experienced the blast off, I laughed out loud raucously. We also have here the hazard tokens. So the road is also going to be littered with face down hazard tokens. So depending if your car drives over it, you flip it, and in this case the car just hit a mine, so obviously it takes damage. So as you can see, you have plenty of cardboard cutouts here. So you've got the 4 colors for the 4 vehicles. You have here lots of other different things that can happen. So you've got blast off, you've got shrapnel, you've got skid, which means you move one direction. So in this case, the white space is the car you're on, and the grey space is where the car moves to. We have here as well, so not all hazards are bad. Some of them are just kind of normal asphalt, some are oil slicks, and some are kind of dips in the road. These are the actual tracks themselves. Now, they're double-sided, so there's actually a lot of tracks in this. So this is the runway run and the parking lot, and what's interesting is as the race carries on, the tracks get conceivably more difficult. So you can see here as well is where the hazards are. You can obviously drive at most efficiently on the asphalt. If you can drive in sand, you can still drive okay. If you go through muck here, it costs you 2 movement points, and if you go into anything that's got a covered yellow space here, you crash. So again, as you can see, everything is double-sided, so that's 4 tracks, 6 tracks. Now the bunker, of course, as you can see, is a very fun one because everyone has to careen either to the extreme left or to the extreme right. And of course, if you are knocked off the track, you lose the race. You have here the barrens and the scenic route. Again, some very fun tracks here that just make the game very difficult, so that you're kind of guaranteed absolute mayhem. So I mean, this is 8 tracks so far, and so you have 10 tracks in total, so 5 kind of pieces with double-sided, and the choke again here, which would be great fun because it would be just absolute carnage and mayhem. You have here a board to protect, and you have here the die. So to explain the blast off token, what you do is you roll the purple dice, and the purple die will show you the direction that the car moves. So in this case, if you crashed, the car would move to the bottom left hex, and the green die is how many spaces it moves. So in that case, it would move 4, 2, 1, or 3 spaces. So the first time I had a blast off, I was blown forward 4 spaces. So despite being careened into the back by another vehicle, it actually did me a huge advantage. You have here the road die. So the other fair thing about the game is it's quite balanced, that everyone rolls a die, and if someone has a bad roll, they get this as a kind of an assist to every one of their vehicles. So they get to move 1, 2, 3 spaces extra if they have a very bad roll. This is a kind of a crash dice, so depending on the shape, it's either the car that's on the bottom or the car that's on the top that moves in conjunction with this dice. And this, of course, is the gunfire dice. So when you have a car in front of you, you can take a pot shot at it. So this is 1 damage to a large vehicle. This is 1 damage to a medium to small vehicle, 1 damage to a medium vehicle, and there is any damage here. So the interesting thing is the smaller vehicles are harder to hit. These are the colored die, so you have basically the colors for all the different pieces. And here you have the little plastic cars. So the first things we have here, of course, are the helicopters. The helicopters will never be damaged, but they can be flown. So if you use one of your dice, you can spend it to move a helicopter over a certain space, and if there happens to be a vehicle underneath it, it's bombed and is immediately taken out of action. If it happens to be in front of it, any left, right, or center, it can take a pot shot at it. These, of course, would be the actual vehicles themselves. So you have some aspects which are just wrecks. So this is just kind of, this is just a hazard. But what's interesting about the wreck is if you crash into that, it goes flying. So it's basically like a ricochet. You have here the little buggy, which is the smallest of the cars. You have here the big honking kind of A-team van, which of course is the biggest, but also the easiest to shoot. And you have here the medium-sized car. Now the advantage, of course, is the heavier the vehicle, if you're the heavier vehicle, you get to demand a reroll. So if a smaller vehicle hits you or a bigger one, you get to force the person to have a reroll, maybe, which might favor you. But otherwise, it's a very, very simple, very fun game, and I enjoyed it so much that I went out and bought it almost immediately. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is Thunder Road Vendetta, a thoroughly enjoyable game, one that I will be doing a review of quite soon, because I can see me getting lots of games of this in. And as always, if you enjoyed these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. And until next time, good luck, God bless, stay safe, and stay safe on the roads.